You're sitting on the couch. Your dog is fast asleep on the rug, dead to the world. You quietly stand up to get a glass of water. But before your foot even hits the hardwood, you hear it. The sudden shift of weight, the click of nails. Your dog is instantly awake, right at your heels. To the kitchen, to the laundry room, to the bathroom, sitting and staring at the closed door until you emerge. Most of us call them Velcro dogs. We assume they're hoping for a dropped snack, or maybe they're just clingy. Some proudly claim their dog is protecting them at their most vulnerable. But from the outside, this seems like simple curiosity. The evidence suggests something much more specific. Veterinary behaviorists and neuroscientists have been tracking the spatial relationship between dogs and humans for decades, and their measurements dismantle almost everything we assume about why our dogs won't leave us alone. Your dog isn't just following you. They are executing a deeply embedded neurological survival strategy. And the real reason they follow you has less to do with where you're going and everything to do with what happens to their brain when you walk away. Let's start with what you think you're seeing. When your dog follows you into the kitchen, it's easy to assume it's transactional. The kitchen is where the food is, therefore, they follow. When they follow you to the bathroom, you assume it's anxiety. But observe closely, and these explanations fracture. Because half the time, they don't actually want anything. They follow you into the kitchen, ignore the food bowl, sigh heavily, and lie down on the cold tile. You walk back to the living room. They get up, follow, sigh, and lie down on the rug. It looks like clinginess, but the more revealing interpretation is that your dog isn't tracking your destination. They are tracking their anchor. In developmental psychology, there's a foundational concept called the secure base. It describes how human toddlers explore. A toddler will walk a few steps away from their mother, play with a toy, and look back. If the mother leaves the room, play stops entirely. The world becomes a threat. The mother is a cognitive force field. Scientists long assumed this complex psychological tether was unique to primates. But researchers adapting infant attachment tests for canines have discovered something extraordinary. Dogs don't just love their owners. They use them as a biological center of gravity. When you move, their center of gravity moves. And an animal cannot exist outside of its own gravity. To understand how powerful this invisible tether actually is, we have to look at what happens when it gets tested. In 2013, researchers at Vetmeduni Vienna brought dogs into a room and gave them interactive puzzle toys filled with high-value treats. In one scenario, the dog's owner sat quietly. In another, the owner left, leaving a friendly stranger in the room. In the third, the dog was entirely alone. If following was just about food or getting a reward, as standard behavioral conditioning suggests, the dog should have worked the puzzles no matter who was there. The sausages inside smelled exactly the same. But they didn't. When the owner left, the dogs lost interest in the food. Even with a friendly stranger encouraging them, their engagement plummeted. This is the first hard proof that dismantles the hungry dog theory. The dog wasn't working for the food. They were working because the psychological safety provided by the owner's presence allowed their brain to access problem solving. When you walk out of the living room, your dog doesn't follow you because they think you're going to drop cheese. They follow because the radius of safety just walked out the door. Without you, the environment stops being a place to relax and becomes a waiting room for your return. But how do they always know you're leaving? This is the part that feels almost supernatural. You haven't even decided to get up yet, but somehow your dog is already lifting their head. The behavior does not begin where most people think it begins. The visible act, the dog walking behind you, is only the surface event. The real process starts seconds earlier, in the exact way you shift your skeleton. In 2017, researchers at the University of Padua used specialized eye tracking technology to study what dogs look at when watching humans. They found that dogs are master analysts of human kinematics. They don't wait for you to stand up. They track the micro shifts in your posture, the tightening of your core, the exact angle of your feet shifting beneath the coffee table. Your dog has spent thousands of hours gathering data on your physical habits. And this creates a neurological loop. When your dog recognizes the micro cue that you are about to move, Their brain releases a pulse of dopamine. We usually think of dopamine as the reward chemical, but neurobiologists know it's actually the anticipation chemical. It spikes before the event happens. Your dog feels the chemical urge to move before you've even left the couch. They are physically primed to follow you before your brain has fully processed that you're going to the bathroom. This brings us to one of the most stubborn myths in the dog world. Google, "Why does my dog follow me into the bathroom?" and hundreds of trainers will claim your dog is guarding you. The theory goes that wolves protect each other when vulnerable in the wild, so your dog is guarding your blind spot. It makes us feel like we have a tiny, furry bodyguard. But evolutionary biology completely rejects this. Wolves do not tactically guard each other while defecating. That is a human projection. More importantly, dogs are not wolves. The reason they follow you is etched into their DNA. In 2017, an evolutionary biologist at Princeton University named Bridget von Holt published a landmark study analyzing canine DNA. She discovered domestic dogs have specific structural variations in two genes, GTF2I and GTF2IRD1. In humans, mutations in these exact same genes cause Williams-Buren syndrome, a condition characterized by extreme hypersociability and an intense drive to seek physical proximity to others. Your dog is not a tactical security expert securing the perimeter. They are a genetically modified creature whose DNA has been hacked by thousands of years of domestication to crave proximity to humans. They follow you because their genetic code makes isolation uncomfortable and closeness deeply, structurally rewarding. But there is a deeper layer to this, one that completely redefines what it means to live with a dog. Think about how exhausted your dog gets after a long hike. They are deeply asleep. And yet, the moment you walk toward the kitchen, they drag themselves up and follow. Why fight through that level of physical fatigue? Because the quiet part is not always the calm part. When you stand up and walk away, you are not just leaving the room. You are shifting their autonomic nervous system. Researchers studying the Family Dog Project at Utrecht University have documented allomimetic behavior, the innate drive in social animals to synchronize movements. But it goes beyond just copying your steps. Studies measuring heart rate variability, HRV, in dogs and owners found that when bonded pairs are in the same room, their physiological states sync. When you rest on the couch, your resting heart rate helps anchor your dogs. You are co-regulating each other. When you suddenly stand up, your heart rate increases. The physical distance between you widens. For a securely attached dog, this gap creates a mild, subconscious spike in arousal. The only way for their nervous system to return to baseline, to get their heart rate back into the safe, synchronized zone, is to close the distance. They aren't following you because they want to. They follow because their nervous system is trying to re-regulate. They collapse on the kitchen tile and sigh, not out of disappointment, but because the biological circuit has been closed. They are safe again. So, if following is a natural, genetic, and physiological response, is it ever a problem? This is where the distinction between a secure attachment and a hyperattachment becomes crucial. Clinical researchers in applied animal behavior science have mapped this out clearly. If your dog follows you to the kitchen, lies down, and rests their head, that is a secure base at work. They wanted proximity, they got it, and they settled. But if your dog follows you, paces the floor, pants heavily, and cannot lie down until you sit back down, that is a broken internal prediction system. They are trapped in a state of chronic anticipatory stress. The common advice for a clingy dog is to lock them out. Shut doors, put up baby gates, force independence. But behavioral intervention studies show that for a dog with hyperattachment, suddenly blocking access to their core regulator doesn't teach independence. It induces panic. You cannot punish an autonomic nervous system into feeling safe. What the evidence supports instead is normalizing the micro-movements. You stand up, touch the doorknob, sit back down. You walk to the kitchen, ignore the dog, walk right back. You provide so many boring repetitions of movement that the dog's dopamine system stops spiking every time you shift your weight. You teach their brain that your movement does not automatically require their movement. The next time you quietly slip away to the bathroom and hear the inevitable click, click, click of paws right behind you, stop and look at them. They aren't being annoying. They aren't policing your movements. And they certainly aren't hoping you drop a carrot. You are looking at an animal whose evolutionary history, genetic code, and autonomic nervous system have all converged on a single truth. You are the anchor. When you move, their world moves. From the outside, it looks like a dog following a person. But what's actually happening is a 15,000-year-old neurological tether pulling tight, ensuring that wherever you go, they are exactly where they are biologically designed to be, right beside you. If this changed how you see your dog's everyday habits, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Tell me exactly where your dog is sitting right now. See you in the next one.